This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee at 9:02 in the morning on the 7th of September. It's a Shabbat, and we're having a little bit of interruption of released more palatable weather. Unfortunately, 80 degrees already, high in 94. Not nice. Tomorrow the same, not nice. Monday goes down to 93, same on Tuesday, not nice. Wednesday we go to 91, then 92, and then allegedly next Saturday, a week from today, we're down in the 80s. They've been saying that, and it never happens. Please pray for cooler weather in my area. Please pray for breezes. It's hard again. 90, the difference between 90, 91, and 94 is actually substantial. It really is. Seems that we could tolerate 90, even 91, and then more than that, it gets very, very ugly. So the weather becomes ugly. Uh, this is a. I used to say Israel is really one of the most exciting, interesting places you could live. And it really is. But it's also one of the hardest. Now you say, well, it's hard where I am. Well, if you're in Ukraine, yeah, it's hard. But, look what happens to us here. And our economy has always been horrible, going back 50 years, 70 years. It's always been terrible. And they make it that way. They don't want the Jews coming here. A lot of Jews came here, in the 40s, the 50s, even the 60s, because where they were living was just horrible. Like Yemen, they came out of Iraq, Iran, Syria, they were here from Lebanon, some, Algiers, Morocco. There's another place in Africa they came out of. And they're, they came, of course, they had it so bad, and the ones that are predominantly, overwhelmingly Ashkenazi that came from UK, France, nice places in Europe, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, even South Africa, Mexico, they came, Argentina, they came because they wanted to live in Israel. And there's tremendous discrimination against them from the others. Because a lot of them went and got an education in the nations and then came here. So that's another mess that never should exist. It's anti-biblical, but the government of Israel and the rabbis encourage it. They have a Sephardic head rabbi, and they got, they don't say he's Ashkenazi. I guess he is an Ashkenazi head rabbi. There's a lot of division. So, you leave your country, you come here because you don't want to be discriminated against for being a Jew, and then you get discriminated against for being Messianic. Got it? Alright, it's hard. It's really hard. And the economy is, in recent years, is disgusting here. Okay, so what I'm going to cover today is Trump's sentencing was postponed by a federal judge from September 18th to November 26th. This was done to interfere with allegations of, because of allegations of doing this to sink his election. So this creates absolutely amazing possibilities that it is stranger than fiction. Trump is saying he's trying to get the whole case. He's using the word terminated. Now, he may be able to do that. I would assume his, $1,000, $1,500 an hour lawyers have some very novel, creative, fantastic, good solutions to present to the judge. Well, good legal arguments to present to the judge. What will happen with that, I don't know. what the heck happens if Trump wins the election and then gets sentenced to 18 years in jail or something like that, right? He's got 34 counts. I thought it was 44. It's 34. What happens then? Nobody knows. I would say that he would ask the court to stay his sentence. He would appeal it, of course, and postpone, and to not continue, that the sentencing would be postponed pending appeals, and try to get the thing dragged out till he gets sworn in. Now, would they swear him in D.C., or would they swear him in at the jail? Well, they would probably swear him in D.C. for tradition. And they would send correction officers to guard him. So he could be sworn in wearing a prison jumpsuit and chains. Do you understand? I don't think they would do that. I think he would wear a suit. And then he would have his staff prepare a presidential pardon. And while he's on the podium with the Bible, and then he takes his hand off the Bible, he turns around and signs his pardon, which is legal. There's nothing in the laws of the Constitution that says this could not happen. It would be lawful. He could also execute various executive orders, but now they would have somebody standing by with a high-ranking judge that would be given probably a scan of the signed document by electronic transmission or fax, and they would rush into the judge, who would be put on notice, and he would issue an order that Trump is immediately released, and he'd never go back to prison. He'd just go to the White House. Now, the Secret Service would be informed of that, and they would abide by a federal judge. Or it's so crazy. How do you analyze this? How do you do this? I don't know. There really is no law to stop Trump from being president while he's in jail, but come on, it's not feasible. So the solution would be that, or they could ask a federal judge to let him begin serving his sentence after he's freed from the presidency, which is never going to happen. That would be the only remedy. Now let's talk about what Biden will do. Does Biden understand what I just told you? Of course. Maybe not Biden, he doesn't know what planet he's on, but the legal team, they understand this could happen. They also understand that Trump has an axe to grind with the Biden gang. His, not the gang, Biden, Kamala, the cabinet, and, these kind of people. And others. Trump's a very vindictive guy, they say, and vengeance is something he talks about. So he will go after them. Probably the Barack also. And, it'd be easy for him to do it. He just changes the Justice Department heads, the FBI, the Pentagon, military intelligence, NSA, CIA, Homeland Security, ICE, all of them. And then organizes a task force of 800 or 900 or maybe 1,800 people to start digging up dirt and build cases, and off we go to the races. But now they're not in office, and he is. They know that. They know he's coming. Now the polls are beginning to show rather extreme victory for Trump, like over 10 points, which is pretty heavy. Hunter Biden is pleading guilty to some tax charges now, several charges, misdemeanor and felonies. What I think you're going to see with that is his sentencing will probably be after the election too. And I would imagine Biden, it's not safe for him to be in jail. So I imagine what Biden will do, although he said he wouldn't do it, is after the election is over, pardon him. That's it. There's nothing they could do about it. The election's over, nobody cares anymore, they'll pardon him. Trump will be that way, Biden will be that way. They know 4 years down the road, Trump knows it's going to be a forgotten issue. Be a forgotten issue in 4 months, in probably 4 weeks. So what would Biden's best move be? Biden's best move would be to attack Russia with NATO or directly, probably almost, 99% through NATO, and him and his allies attack Iran. So you have a Middle East crisis, and you have a big war in Russia, with Russia and NATO and the EU, really. And then Biden, this is before November, as the polls tilt more and more towards Trump, which they will, because Biden's just a failure, and Kamala is nobody that inspires any confidence, If they were going to run a woman for the White House and she wasn't seated as vice president under Biden, they could maybe get something going, but they got the woman thing going against her, they got race thing going against her, they got her liberal label going against her, they got the border crisis with the illegals and the gangs and the sleeper agents in America, they got wars. I mean, they're loaded with problems. And you're going to push her in the middle of these problems against a good orator like Trump and debates? Come on. She'll do decent with the debates 3 or 4 times better than Biden, but she won't really hold up to Trump. She may pick up some points. So if the real polls, not the ones the media wants to talk about, the real polls that they may or may not share with you, who knows, show that, Kamala got it, at least, Trump's at least 4, 5, 6 points ahead, they're going to be very scared. If it's 1 or 2 points, they may sit on the fence, But if it's, like 4, it's a lot of places it's over 10 points. So, what could Biden do? It's easy. They do this in other countries. He just declares the United States at war, under stress, under crisis, politically divided, tensions are high, we need a cooling off period, we can't take riots with the war going on, we've got to postpone the election. And it'll start with enough postponement to go probably 90, 120 days or something like that, which could always be renewed. So without an election, he'll remain in office, which is going to break the Constitution because he's in for more than 2 4-year terms, but under the circumstances, with an election pending, it'll probably wash. And he could do this, I think, with executive order. Now, Congress could unite and attempt to pass a law that he can't do this, but he could veto it, so they'd have to have a very high percentage of Congress, either 66 or 75, I think 66%, something like that. It could be 75, I don't know, to override his veto and cause the elections to continue. But I don't think that they'll be able to come up with enough votes to do that. Because if it's 75%, Biden only needs 25% of the Congress, and he has that. And if it's 66, he needs well, it'd be 66.6 or point 0.5, whatever. He would have the 35% or the 34% of the Congress too. So I don't think they could do that. So basically, he'll run away with the government. And the Supreme Court, there could be cases filed in the Supreme Court, but I think the Supreme Court would look at this and say it's only 90 days, it seems based in fact. Let's just come up with an answer to the extent that it's only 90 days, and the prudent thing is to just wait it out. And if you think Biden wouldn't do that and can't do it, I think you're wrong. I think he could definitely do it. While it's completely abnormal in America to see an election postponed, I never went back through history to see if it was ever done. It could have been done. But it's done in other countries. Other countries have been known to suspend Congress during war too. I don't think Biden could pull that off. I think the Supreme Court and the Congress would both move to step that, and they would start impeachment against him. They could start impeachment against him too. If they can't get enough votes to veto him, they might get enough votes to impeach him. But what the heck does Biden care about getting impeached? And it's going to probably take him more than that. Now, when they file impeachment, it means he's impeached. But to actually get a victory on the impeachment, it's probably going to take more than 90 days, with Biden postponing everything because of the wars. Now, he could do this with just an Iran war, just the Russian war, or just the war with China over Taiwan and North South Korea and all that. He just needs one. And on the other hand, if there's big terrorist attacks in the United States from what they refer to as illegal migrants who may or may not become legal, he could use that without a war. Just use that. So, after all the events that happened to Trump, one serious assassination attempt to hit his ear, one other assassination attempt that wasn't that significant, the prison sentencing of 34 counts, which a regular person, they say, would have got probation or a fine or something like that, and they want to shove him into the jails. Trump is likely going to interpret that as coming from Obama, Biden, their team, and he will likely, by his own words in the past years, seek revenge, I believe. He never said he's specifically going to go after Biden, but he tends to go after people. So I think he might do it. I would expect it. And his plans for Iran, Russia, China, Israel, the Palestinians is not what they want. He's now talking about becoming the biggest cryptocurrency country in the world. It's interesting with crypto, how do you, I'd have to think about how you deal with inflation in crypto. Crypto generally converts to dollars, euros, pounds, whatever, right? Yen, rubles. And that's how you execute purchases with crypto. So it's really not a great thing. Russian ships were seen loitering around internet cables very recently. I'm talking days, not months or weeks, days ago. And Russia themselves may be contemplating cutting cables selectively, I expect, breaking down the SWIFT system. The banking sanctions on Russia, China, Iran, North Korea are grueling for them right now. They're horribly hard. Biden put sanctions on 13 Israeli citizens over violence in the West Bank. Do you know how many sanctions he put on North Korean citizens? And you know they're bad dogs, 8. And Iranian citizens, the amount of people that got sanctions there is under 13. So Biden put more personal sanctions on Israelis than usually he does. I mean, I think there's a lot on Russia and stuff like that, but these Israelis, how do you compare them to Iran, Russia, North Korea? They don't have missiles, they don't have planes, they don't have armies, they don't have governments, they don't have countries. See how sick Biden is towards Israel? Look at their actions, don't look at their words. Then we're also going to talk about what happened in the International Criminal Court of Justice on July 19, 2024, which basically says Israel does not have the right to the land, specifically meaning Gaza, East Jerusalem, which is the site of the temple, and the West Bank. And they have to evacuate immediately. And this means, listen hard, listen, this means that the Israeli troops staying in Gaza after the war would violate this International Court of Justice ruling. Now, we're going to develop this later on in the broadcast, but the International Court of Justice does not have enforcement powers. It's tied to the UN. So what they have, now, I want to explain this to you. I have been praying for a while that the Lord would show me how and why Jeremiah 30:11 comes to pass. And that says that the Lord will destroy the nations that he scattered the Israelites into. Now, over the centuries, that's over 100 nations. It's everything in Europe, everything in North, South, Central America, the Caribbean, parts of Asia, parts of Africa, parts of the Middle East. It's huge. Okay? And it's in there in your Bible in Jeremiah 30, verse 11, and it's never been fulfilled, obviously. And I know that because it can't be fulfilled until the dispersion is over. Because if the dispersion or the captivity or the year of redemption, I should say, did not yet happen, he can't do it because there would be continued dispersion. In Yiddish, there's a word called verstehst. It means, do you get it? Do you understand? In Hebrew, we would say, mavin. Do you understand it? You see? So it couldn't have happened in the past. So it's going to happen. It's written in the Bible. Now, if you're going to take a posture, no, I don't believe these, then you're not a believer. I don't know what you are. The Jehovah's Witnesses use the Bible. The Mormons use the Bible. Christian Scientists use the Bible. Catholics use the Bible. So, be one of those. 52% of the churchgoers in America do not believe that the Bible is the inerrant Word of God. In other words, that it has no error and it has to come to pass. They don't believe that. 52%, more than half. So if you want to believe that way, look, you can fix this for a couple of dollars. I'll tell you how. It's easy. Go to a hobby store or a big hardware store and buy an X-Acto knife. Get a big piece of cardboard from a box. Find a page with Jeremiah 30, verse 11 on it. Put the cardboard under the page. Hold it down. Take the X-Acto knife. Cut it out of the Bible. Throw it away. There you go. You're now an ostrich practicer of prophetic passages in the Bible. You just stick your head in the ground like an ostrich. What did Yeshua say? If you reject knowledge, I will reject you. I'm being very harsh, of course, because I'm trying to rattle you, if need be. All right, so what we're going to cover in a little while is how can this ICJ decision lead to the events of Zechariah 12, the siege against Israel, which in part is happening now. The siege is not an invasion, it's a surrounding, basically. And Jeremiah 30:11. Now, I'm just giving you, I'm going to give you some points and the way it may come about. I think overall, this is the answer that I believe. That's why the Lord quickened it to me this morning. But as to all the dotting the I and crossing the T's and all the little twists and turns, that we don't know in prophecy. We know what's going to happen and we know the end result. Okay? How it actually gets there, we don't know. There's always twists and turns. Who in the world would have ever thought that Trump would be sentenced on 34 counts of crimes in New York City right after his election? Come on. Okay, I'm going to jump into the chat real quick. The live stream, the chat, I switched the names. I want to make sure we got sound and picture. Live stream, the chat, I switched the names. I want to make sure we got sound. We got good sound and picture. And I'm going to put up a couple of quick posts in the chat there very quickly. And give people another minute or two to come in at the same time. If I talk while I post, I usually make typos. Almost done. I'm going to put my email address up if anybody wants to send in an email for a prayer request or a question you want me to cover in the broadcast, as long as it's somewhat related to the matter I'm talking about. That's fine. You could also post prayer requests and questions or something you want to ask me to cover or something like that in the chat. When you do prayer requests or toss requests, just put the two initials of the person you're asking for the toss or the healing or the prayer for, and it gives them more privacy. And the Lord knows who it is. Okay, I'm done. Just want to pin this up real quick. There we go. Okay, now being a Bible-believing site, all the New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. You can join in, not join in. I have no control over any of that. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, remember that when you start talking about the names of the Messiah and God, that there is no J in the Hebrew alphabet. There's no J sound. So Jehovah's name could not possibly be Jehovah. and Yeshua's name could not possibly be Jesus. Okay. The Ukraine-Russia thing, they're still knocking each other's lights out. Lithuania is near Kaliningrad, which is considered Russia proper. They have a border, I believe, and separated by a river, I think. And Kaliningrad is Russia proper territory. They got troops there and military, a lot. Lithuania is land mining their border with Kaliningrad and putting up these big concrete obstacles for tanks. That's certainly a war drum, you know. Biden administration just the other day, another $250 million in aid to Ukraine. Ukraine's just a puppet state, or a satellite, or a proxy, whatever word you want to use, of NATO and America. That's all it is. Sinwar, the head of Hamas, is pretty scared in Hamas. In Gaza too. I mean, he's in Gaza. He's running Hamas. They're severely disjointed now and can't really function as a knit together military unit. To combat this, their high-ranking commanders who've been living like rats in a tunnel are starting to emerge to try to bring the troops together. So they're actually leaving tunnels. We killed, I believe yesterday, maybe the day before, within 24, 48 hours, we killed the head of the Hamas Special Forces, not Jihad, or I don't know, they're special, they're, you know, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Recon Marine, the Special Forces of Hamas, Gaza. We killed them. I don't think he was anywhere near as high-ranking as Sinwar, who's the overall head leader, but, you know, he was definitely a major leader in Hamas, and he was responsible, I believe, for the paraglider attacks on October 7th. He was involved in that, but he's dead. One of the reasons Netanyahu wants to remain in the Philadelphia corridor, which is South Gaza, Rafah, the border of Egypt is, where there were numerous tunnels used to smuggle all kinds of weapons and tunnel-making supplies over years. Biden never criticizes Egypt over this, does he? Years and years of this. Is the Israeli military intel believes that Sinwar wants to get out of Gaza by using some type of tunnel or somehow crossing the Philadelphia corridor into Egypt and then getting on a plane and going to Iran. To show you the division in Egypt, there's a tremendous amount of people, not millions, but quite a few, they're protesting. They're driven by the friends and family of the hostages, you know. And they want an end to the war so the hostages can come home. So, you know, I don't want to sound cynical and mean, but they have tunnel vision. All they think about is get the hostages back. Well, Netanyahu is between a rock and a hard place here, and I'll explain it to you. Yeah, I'm going to be giving credit to Netanyahu where credit is due. Credit will be given, I suppose. Although I think he's the worst leader Israel ever had in thousands of years. But if the way the negotiations are going is no hostages are going to get released until Israel is completely out of Gaza. And then they want an exchange for an incredibly high amount of terrorists in the Israeli prisons, like 50 to 1, numbers like that. They're not going to release all the hostages at that first sign either. So, if Netanyahu withdraws from Gaza, including the Philadelphia corridor, what is likely to happen fairly immediately is Sinwar, the head of Hamas, will, by tunnel or otherwise, go into Egypt, get on a waiting Iranian transport plane, military plane, fly to Iran with the hostages. This makes Netanyahu look like an idiot with egg all over his face. The families of the hostages and the friends and all them that are protesting and pushing Netanyahu this path are inevitably going to blame Netanyahu for bungling this. So Netanyahu is between a rock and a hard place, and he can't move on this Philadelphia corridor thing. The Hamas in Gaza is in very, very dangerous trouble. Okay? Their fighting effectiveness is down by 99%. And they're in danger of just being busted up, and that could mean prison and other things. So they're getting desperate. Now, there's another problem they have. They have secret weapon depots inside Gaza that may or may not be underground. The troops don't really know about them. They could be, warehouses. They could be, I don't know what, anything. And our intel says they have such bases, such depots in Gaza. They probably have an assortment of shoulder-fired anti-tank rockets, RPGs, ammo for guns, machine guns, AK-47s, mortars, missiles, and other things. Intel believes there's several such depots, and the leaders know where they are, and they're not telling the regular line soldiers. So the soldiers can't just go to a depot and sign out a gun. They don't know where these depots are. And Israel is watching many different ways, watching to see who goes to these depots. They know where the depots are, and then they get destroyed. So the leaders don't want any of the line soldiers going to the depots. They got big trouble. As a result of this, I assume, Hezbollah is doing a good 100 or so launches a day of their junky Katyusha rockets, which could just land near the border. They're starting fires, they're damaging evacuated real estate because the civilians have left the border area, probably 95% of them. But they do create property damage. They cause us to run down our Iron Dome inventory. Israel aggressively attacks when they see these launches. We did 15 such attacks on launchers yesterday. Successful. They've restructured and they've gone with these Katyusha launches in areas where they haven't been before, spread out. Now, a Katyusha launcher could be made out of old beer and soda cans. It's got a piece of metal like this, light metal, a base plate, and an angled ramp that they put the missile on. These are thin, flimsy metal. They're not very heavy. The Katyusha missiles aren't that heavy and not that big. You can't aim them. They have a range of up to, depending on the model, 8 to 11 or 12 miles. They have a rather small warhead, and they're extremely easy to knock down with the Iron Dome and other means. But Hezbollah is trying to escalate and keep the pressure on. It appears that we did disable 6,700 of their launches that were loaded with guidable ballistic missiles going all over Israel. We did a preemptive strike and took out that many. We used 100 airplanes. So, probably a lot of times these missile launches were set up in a row, maybe 6, 8, or 10, So anyway, they're not recovering. Now, Iran, this is again in the last 36 or 24 hours, tried to bring a convoy of advanced missiles into Syria, and it was the suspicion of military intel in Israel that it was not destined to go to Lebanon, because when these trucks of military equipment came near the border between Lebanon and Syria, we would destroy them. So these trucks came in from Iran to Iraq into Syria, headed towards the border with Israel to use against us. And the way the story goes is unknown aircraft flew into Syria and blew up this convoy. Explosions, secondary explosions were heard, flames, everything else. It was loaded for bear. So Iran has been making very desperate attempts. I understand that was 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles from Israel, so it was well into Syria. Iran has been making many, many attempts to get more advanced missiles into Lebanon and not doing too good. As I said, Iran is afraid to attack right now. They're just treading water with the threats, but they are pushing the Hezbollah hard. The Houthis have been managing to attack ships, but maybe 1 or 2 a week. They've been pretty well deactivated without radar and missile launches. If they get it seen, they get blown up. So America and UK are surveillancing, mostly America, surveillancing Yemen all the time. When they see something they don't like, UK and or American jets fly over and bomb it. There are no American Navy ships in the Red Sea, nor are there any in the Persian Gulf. I would say there's maybe 25 to 35 American ships in the theater here, that's it. Certainly not a third of the American Navy of 475 vessels, like people were saying. There are a lot of aircraft in the area. and not that many soldiers. They have no interest in a ground war. They got sailors on ships. They got Air Force pilots and planes, and they got radar set up in Israel. They got that X-band radar set up, which goes very, very far. It's the world's most advanced, greatest radar system, they say. America set one up in Israel so they can monitor Iran, and they can reach out a long way. Now, the radar doesn't do anything other than monitor, but they can get precise locations and then launch weapons at those locations. So things are very hot in Russia and very hot in the Middle East. China pretty much the same. Many days in the week the Taiwan people have a handful of Chinese warships surrounding Taiwan, and 10, 20, 30, 40 aircraft flying around from China violating their airspace. They do this every day. Not every day, but quite a few days. And they're doing it, pretty constantly, but not every single day. This is, of course, psychological warfare. But it's more than that. The Chinese are pretty smart people. And so are the Russians. So they're thinking, it's psych warfare on America and Taiwan. And then everybody says, they're just, scaring us and bluffing us. True. They're bluffing you until one day it's not a bluff anymore. It turns into a full-scale attack. And they know that if they move their transport boats, which are converted ferries, and start staging 100 or 200,000 soldiers to cross the water 110 miles to Taiwan, that they can be seen by the air, and then the eggs are going to hit the fan. I'm thinking. International Criminal Court of Justice. Any countries that's in the genocide treaty, which Israel is subject to the ICJ, International Criminal Justice Court. There's another one, ICC, International Criminal Court, that Israel is not a party to. Neither is America, but all the countries, pretty much, that are in the UN have participated in the genocide treaty, and they are under jurisdiction from the ICJ. So the ICJ does have jurisdiction over Israel, where the ICC does not. Now, the ICJ does not have enforcement power. In other words, it can't generate an arrest warrant or that kind of thing. But it can take its decisions to the UN Security Council for a vote for the United Nations to enforce it. Okay? This requires there can't be anybody anybody, not any vetoes. So if the U.S. vetoes it, it won't go anywhere. Okay? But if an action gets presented to the National Security Council, which it probably will, Biden can call Netanyahu up on the phone and say, listen, Benji, if you want me to get you out of this and veto it, this is what I need you to do. And he tells them, get all your troops the heck out of there, hope the Iranians give you the Hamas gives you some hostages back, and just let the war lay. You won, leave it alone. You do that for me, I'll just tell my guy to veto it at the UN Security Council, and it's dead. The Biden administration is dumb enough to think that if the war against Hamas stops and prisoner exchange, Israel's permanently out of Gaza, hostages come back, and they start trying to make plans to rebuild Gaza, which would take an international effort. Israel's not going to do it. The day that Israel says they'll pay to restore Gaza, there'll be a vote of no confidence, and they'll throw them out of office. They'll never do it. They can't afford to. The estimated price is $750 billion, like $750 billion to rebuild Gaza. It runs 25 miles long. It could be 17 miles wide in some places. It's a big piece of geography. 80-90% of the homes have been damaged or destroyed. Government buildings, malls, stores, shopping centers, private homes, schools, hospitals, destroyed or severely damaged. So the paved streets are gone, the sidewalks are gone, the traffic lights are gone, the water's busted up, the gas lines are busted up. Everything. Sewage is bad. Everything is bad. They say it would take 100 trucks a day, 2 years, just to cart the rubble off. And that's when you could start building. Although they could do it in segments in certain areas. They could also up it from 100 trucks to 300 trucks a day. Israel's not going to pay anything like that. The cost to just get the rubble out is in the billions. I think that Biden could assure Hamas that they'll go to the UN and find money to rebuild it. Arab countries will volunteer and stuff like that. So, On July 19th, Biden got a big stick to be used over Israel's head. It's not really a big stick, it's a sword. I mean, allegorically speaking. The decision said what? Oh, this is the best part. The West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, which is where the Dome of the Rock is, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where the Pool of Siwan is, where the Wailing Wall is, where the temple will go. All of this land, it says Israel is occupying illegally, has to not put any more settlements there, and they have to evacuate. That means that if Netanyahu intends to put troops into Gaza long term, when the war stops, he would be occupying Gaza in violation of this UN, of this ICJ ruling, which could be enforced by the UN Security Council. They would also have to leave Gaza. Leave the West Bank, and they'd have to move out of East Jerusalem. There's a lot of apartment complexes in East Jerusalem that people live in. I've been in them. Okay? This would shrink Israel down substantially. Now, if they go to the UN Security Council and Biden tells Netanyahu, thou shalt do this, that, and the other thing, or I won't veto it, and Netanyahu says, I can't veto it. They'll throw me out of office in a day. You're going to accomplish nothing. They'll just get rid of me immediately if you can't. Yeah, Biden says, hey, that's your problem, not mine. Doesn't veto it. He could abstain, and that would have the same effect. And then they decide to take enforcement action. They tell Israel, we're going to enforce this. Israel believes it or doesn't believe it, I don't know. Now, Israel has a military of approaching 1 million, over 300 fighter jets, and thousands of tanks. So they decide they want to assemble a big UN task force of military from all the different nations, right? To get Israel to comply. Possibly the first place they try is the easiest place. They send soldiers into the West Bank to protect the Palestinians. See, Israel is doing a substantial purge right now of Hamas and other terrorist groups inside the West Bank. They're hitting them, they're killing some, they're getting their weapons depots, their command centers and stuff. Israel is busting them up pretty good. Okay. And that's not going over well with Biden or anybody else, because their plan for Israel is to have a two-state solution and give the West Bank and East Jerusalem over to the Muslims, which makes sure that they're not winning any wars, they're not winning any land, they're not fulfilling prophecy, and they cannot build the temple. And that is Satan's wishes. Period. Now, everybody knows that if Trump gets seated as president, he'll veto it. He'll laugh at them, show up, and have Nikki Haley or somebody as the ambassador show up, and I veto it. And that's it. Everybody goes home. It's over. Could they throw the United States out of NATO, of the UN? And I don't know. I mean, it's something they never really. I don't know how they would do it, but they'd have to start a vote saying, well, we're going to throw America out, we're going to take a vote, but America can't veto it because they're the subject of it. Well, as soon as they made that proposal, America would veto it. Probably the UK, or they'd get thrown out too. So I don't think they could do that. I don't think that's a feasible alternative. What? Biden has a big stick right now against Israel. And it's not, oh, I'm not going to send you bombs or bullets or missiles. No, it's this. So they raise the force, they go in through Jordan, who's only too happy to let it happen, right? And then they push Israelis out of the West Bank, and now they're surrounding what it says in Zechariah 12, I should read to you. Zechariah 12 is not taught by the churches, but it's in your Bible, it's in all the Bibles. It's not a contested scripture or book of the scriptures. And it's unfulfilled, and they just don't teach it. And they don't teach a lot of things, and that's not really my fault. That's their fault. And rather than cram down your throat why they don't teach things, you should ask yourself. Now, I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to go through Zechariah 12 and then Jeremiah 30:11 and put the pieces together, and you'll see a likely probability here. there's a bunch of people in social media that are very powerful. And they're also very anti-Israel. One of them is a former judge. Another one is a former colonel. And another one is what I would call an influencer on the social media. And he's been investigated by the FBI to the point where they took the computers out of his house with a warrant. That frequently leads to an arrest. Not always. These people are possibly not, and I'm not giving names, not just anti-Israel, anti-Semitic or whatever, but they could be getting paid by Iran or Russia or China or all of them, or some other organization, and that's why FBI came to one of them and took the computers to investigate. These characters, the colonel and the judge, were doing a video, and in the video they were saying how Israel controls the American government through lobbying and has total control, or almost total control, over America going to war, referencing Iran. Well, America is obviously ready to go to war against Israel, against Russia. How the heck do we fit in there? Obviously we don't. They're ready to go to war with North Korea and China over South Korea and Taiwan. How do we fit into that? Well, we don't. How do we fit into the millions of military-age males referred to by some as sleeper agents going through America via the open borders? These are not Israelis. How do we figure in China buying up to 350,000 acres of land, much of it on the border of big American military bases? We have nothing to do with that. We have no connection to the Venezuelan gang. There's supposedly 1 million Venezuelan migrants in America now. Not 1 million gang members, people from Venezuela. And they're saying that he was emptying out the prisons and nut houses and sending them to America, which Castro did, I think, in the late 70s or something. And they came to America and got into the drug business. And there was extreme violence in the streets and all over the place in Florida for years in the 80s. The wild Miami, the wild, wild west in Miami. So, what they're saying is Netanyahu wants a war with Iran. And he's going to get America to do it. And they're blaming it on Israel. Then the judge asks the colonel, does America have any reason to go to war against Iran? And he says, oh, no reason. That's ridiculous. Iran's trying to take over the Middle East and choke America and Europe off with oil by controlling the people. They already got Saudi Arabia to agree to not trade oil in dollars and euros. They're working on Jordan now, and it looks like Jordan may go in. Okay? They're supporting Yemen, the Houthis, with missiles, money, and technology, and assistance, and everything else. And they're attacking merchant marine vessels and military vessels all over the Red Sea and in their area. And they've already cut internet cables and intend to cut more. Iran supports Hezbollah in Lebanon. That's the worst thing that ever happened to the Lebanese government and the economy. And Lebanon is threatening to attack ships in Greece and Cyprus and in the Mediterranean. And Iran is supporting Algeria with weapons and IRG soldiers to close the Straits of Gibraltar, which is a pincher point, stopping ships from going from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean and vice versa. Iran has given about 15,000 drones to Russia to use in Ukraine, and recently missiles. And when they use them in Ukraine, it means America has to spend more money and give more equipment to Ukraine, as well as the NATO members have to do the same. Iran's buddy with BRICS. I think they're in BRICS. And BRICS is trying to do away with the US dollar. Iran sells oil and natural gas against the sanctions and does not take euros or US dollars in payment. Nor does Russia. So this is decreasing the demand for the US dollar. Iran has threatened to attack America, calls America the big Satan, Israel the little Satan. And I could keep going. So America has no motive to have a war with Iran. You see how they talk? They know there's going to be a war with America and others against Iran. And they're trying to blame it on Israel. So if things don't go well, they'll make it Israel's fault. See? These are high-level Israel haters, God haters. They're very well polished, and there's many like them. And they say they go to churches, they call themselves Christians, and they say they're in militias, they're patriots, they're survivalists. They can't stand Israel. Who's behind these characters? Who's supporting this? That's the interesting question. You know? Zechariah 12:1. The burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundations of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I, that word is in thee, it means I, the Lord speaking, I will make Jerusalem it says cup of trembling. It really means a basin. It's a big, like, water trough kind of thing. Could be round, rectangle, where many people could drink out of it at the same time. Not a cup. Of trembling, shaking, fear. unto all the people, and that word is am, which is people, all the people round about, and that means surrounding, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Now, to siege Jerusalem and surround it round about, this is Jerusalem, and this is the West Bank on three sides. So they got to be in the West Bank to do this, but there are a lot of Hamas and other terrorist group recruits inside the West Bank that could be raised up. We don't know how many. We don't even know how many live in the West Bank. It's anywhere from 2.5 all the way up to 5 million. And the amount of Jews there is maybe 500,000 or so. So they could be a force as big as Hamas. I don't know. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Though all the, it says heathen, all the heathen of the earth be gathered together against it. Now the word for earth is ha'eretz, and it could mean the land of Israel, and it could also mean the earth. Jerusalem, the court said they have no right to east, Israel has no right to east Jerusalem, which contains the pool of Siwan, the actual site of the temple, the Wailing Wall, the Al-As Mosque, and all that stuff, what they call the Temple Mount, okay? Which really isn't, but that's what they call it. That's all East Jerusalem, the old city that Israel can access now. So this stops Israel from building a temple, from knocking down the Al-As Mosque, from going up and praying up there and all this other stuff, right? If the UN enforces it. There's a lot of Arab countries in the UN. Yeah, I'll send 10,000 soldiers, you know. The idea would be not to come and have a knockdown war for 9 months with Israel, but to bring overwhelming forces like America does to try to scare Iran. Bring overwhelming forces to scare Israel to stand down voluntarily. That would be the plan. That's how they work. The key point is Jerusalem, because that's what Satan's worried about the most. He does not want to see a temple or a tabernacle. He doesn't want to see Jews where the Dome of the Rock is, the Temple Mount. He doesn't want to see any of that. And he wants Israel to lose the land that they got over the years. Satan wants Israel to end with a final solution, occupied by Muslims. Who are currently his chosen people, saints. Can this trigger this? Oh, sure it can. Sure. Now, we don't know, me included, all the little fine points of how it'll work, but yeah, I'm giving you possible scenarios. Bible prophecy doesn't give us all the little details, just the end effect. What is the end effect? Jeremiah 30, verse 11. Let's just do Jeremiah 1 to about 11 or 12, okay? The word that came to Jeremiah from Jehovah, saying, Thus speaketh Adonai, Jehovah Elohim Israel, Jehovah God of Israel. God is plural, Elohim's in the plural, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the word for book is safer. It can mean a scroll, and they were typically this far back scrolls, you know. But anyway, for lo, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith Jehovah, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. This includes the following: to the left or the west of the Euphrates River, portions of Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. It would also include, because the Euphrates River stops at the Persian Gulf, it would also include the countries on our side of the Persian Gulf, which would be Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE. It would include Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, which is really Edom, and then crossing the Red Sea, and of course the land Israel has now, and Lebanon. And then we go to all of Lebanon. Then we go across the Red Sea into Egypt, and we have all the land to the right or the east of the Nile River, which gives us pieces of Egypt, not all of it. Egypt, Sudan, pieces of Sudan, South Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, and parts of Yemen and Kenya. The Nile River stops at Victoria Falls, which I've never seen. I look forward to going there soon. It's, I'm sure one day I'll get there. There's a beautiful waterfall place. People swim in this pool right near the waterfall, which drops hundreds of feet. So it's like one of those, you know, optical illusion swimming pools where you think it goes off the edge. Only in this case, it goes off the edge for real, hundreds of feet. So the people go in the pool, and the guides stand there to grab them if the water washes them to the edge off the side. Now that is something that people like to do, that like to try death. You know, these are people that have a death wish, that go around on motorcycles 140 miles an hour and run from the cops, and, you know, stupid things like this, you know. Okay. So, that's the size of real Israel, and that's about 100 times bigger than what we have now. Nations will love that, won't they, huh? Well, they're not going to be around for it, I'm afraid. I'll show you that. I'm not afraid. I'm going to tell you that's the case. I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel, that's the 10 tribes, Judah, which is the 2 tribes, Judah and Levi, saith the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave their fathers, that they shall possess. So this is promised to us. And these are the words that Jehovah, now if you're a believer for real in Yeshua, you're in Israel, and all Israel shall be saved, and you will come on the next Exodus. You will see the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. You will have everlasting life. Then you will come to Israel. You will get an equal share of the land with the tribe you traverse over here with. And that's found in Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses. But let's stay on topic. Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses, shows the dividing of the land and the strangers that came in the Exodus with the Israelites. Of course, they're believers, real believers, get an equal share of the land and become Israelites, get incorporated into the tribe they came with, and they have the land forever. The land has no mortgage. You don't pay tax on the land, and it's free. You don't rent it or anything like that. It's just yours. You know, like Yeshua says, freely you shall drink of the water of life. Well, it's free, and the land is free. Okay? And that's in there. Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses. And these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Now we heard this, we read this in Zechariah 12. Maybe it applies to the nations, not the Israelites. But then again, maybe not. Let's keep reading. Ask you now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Now, if there were millions or hundreds of thousands of these guys surrounding Israel, why would they be trembling, fearful, shaking? Why? The 2 witnesses are burning them up, as per Zechariah 12:6. That would do it. Or they see the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, seated at the right hand of power, coming like lightning from the east to the west. That would do it. That's another way that it would happen. That would get them shaking too. Perhaps a better remedy there. And then they get killed. Or if they're repenting, they wouldn't get killed. Alas, for that day is great, that none is like it. It is even the time of Yaakov's trouble, Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. In Gog and Magog, we don't read of this. Okay? We don't read in Zechariah 12 or Jeremiah 30 of a beast, a false prophet, the mark of a beast to buy or sell, a talking statue. None of that, because it comes later on. For it shall come to pass in that, see this, they got to have a great falling in to the Lord and his ways. That's what this is. The great falling away is going to come towards the close of the second 70, which is 60-something years from now. Okay. For it shall come to pass in that day, Jehovah of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. This is Biden, the UN, and all that. Okay. But they shall serve Jehovah Elohim, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore fear thou not, my servant Yaakov, saith Jehovah. Neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, next great Exodus, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. That's where they're dispersed to. And Yaakov shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. Well, the everlasting life. For, now listen to this, for I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Well, the word for save is Yasha, the root word of Yeshua's name, Yeshua. I wouldn't say to save thee, I would say, it's lousy English, to salvation thee, because that would be more appropriate. He gets this salvation thee through the redemption. This is the year of redemption beginning, and it starts when you see the sun go dark and the moon turn to blood, you know it's coming. And then when you see Yeshua in the clouds seated at the right hand of power, you're there. Redemption begins. And you get the everlasting life at that point. None shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee. Yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So he's not going to leave Israel unpunished. He's certainly not going to leave the nations unpunished. Okay, think about that. All right, so these were my thoughts over months, maybe even more than a year. There's tons of Jews in Canada, America, Mexico, Caribbean countries. They used to live heavily in the Caribbean islands, which is captivity. They're in every country in North America, South America, Central America, every country. They're there, even today, quite a few. Mexico has a lot, Argentina has a lot. They're in all these places. They gotta go, and I'm scratching my head. How can they go? I mean, they gotta go, it's in the Bible, but what are they doing? They're not getting involved in the wars. What are they doing? How's this gonna come to pass? What's gonna happen? Well, then he quickened it to me today with this ICJ decision, and I see where it's going. They'll send troops, they'll vote against Israel, and they'll send troops to form this massive thing they're going to do, and I believe that's going to be the siege. Possibly, you'll have Hamas, Gaza, or something like that involved with it, but it's going to, I think, predominantly be many, many, many nations. The Jews have been in England and expelled. They've been in France and expelled. They've been in Portugal and Spain and expelled. They've been in Germany and Austria and expelled. They've been persecuted, in many of these countries in the world, in Europe, and they've been in Russia. And the Jews left, and the Tsar persecuted them, all kinds of things. Okay. In Africa, the big Jewish amount of Jews went to South Africa. We had family from there. I believe they're still there. I'm not close to them. My uncle went down there to visit them. They had a shoe factory. He visited them, I think, in the 60s, the latter 60s or something. I want to look at a map of Africa and go through that with you. Africa, by the way, is supposedly bigger than South America, but most of the maps depict it the other way around for whatever crazy reason they're after. No, that map's not clear. A lot of these maps come up blurry. This is another blurry one. Well, the Jews have been in Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, where else? Definitely South Africa. I want to get a clearer map. The resolution on these things is very poor. You expand it, especially. This one's clear. Okay. Libya, I don't know about. Chad, I don't know about. Ethiopia, yes, they've been there. Kenya, yes. Uganda, yeah, not overwhelmingly massive amount. Mali, Nigeria, Niger, Chad, I don't know. I don't think so. But I could be wrong. I just don't know. So that's about that. And then let's see what we could do with Europe here. I'll get a map of Europe. Thing is to get a clear one with good resolution. Not easy. Gotta be one someplace. Google Maps used to be pretty good. I said used to be. Well, they've been in Poland, Germany. Not too many in Denmark, as far as I know. Lithuania, many. Ukraine, many. Latvia, Estonia, don't know. Belarus, don't know. Moldova, I don't know. Romania, yeah. Bulgaria, I don't know. Greece, not, well, probably enough for you. Albania, I don't know. Quite a few places. Quite a few places. So, all these countries are going to go. There are probably 100, 125 countries. They've also been in both Koreas. They've been in China. They've been in Japan. They've been in Taiwan. It's just a tremendous amount of countries, but not every country. Much of Africa, I think, is exempt. Probably a lot of Asia, I'm thinking, is also exempt. Were they ever in Thailand? I don't know. For instance, were they ever in Vietnam? I don't know. So this is for instance, how possibly, and I think this is why the Lord showed it to me, these countries, let's focus on North, South, Central America, and parts of Asia and Africa, because there's not that much in Africa, but a few, they join in by sending their soldiers to help the UN raise a big force to surround Judah and Jerusalem, and they're going to get destroyed. Not only those that are standing around Israel, but their countries will be destroyed. Not all their people will be killed, but their nations will be made a mess, because that's what they want to do to Israel. And what do they want to do to Israel? They want to run them out of the land here, right? Right. What's going to happen to them? Their land's going to be uninhabitable, and they're going to have to leave their countries and go into captivity. Those that survive, which is probably going to be substantial. So they're going to reap what they sow. This can happen any time now. Now, as I said, we see Elijah having appeared openly working training the Levites to make the sacrifices acceptable unto the Lord, which means making them righteous, cleaning up their doctrine, getting them to understand how the walk with Jehovah and Yeshua HaMashiach is, and how to behave correctly and all that. It's not going to be how to hold a knife and cut this way, not that way. Yeah, that's not what he's talking about. That's not going to make them righteous. If it did, they would have had their righteousness at the time they killed Yeshua, because they did all that stuff. They knew how to do all that stuff. That's not what Jehovah's very concerned about. He's very, very concerned about the weightier things of the law. How they deal with each other. Do they lie? Do they do adultery? Are they doing other perversions? Are they murderers? Are they deceitful, unequal weights and measures, suing people in courts, corrupting the judges, all this kind of stuff? That's what they do. That's the weightier things of the law. The weightier things of the law. And that's what's going to get them smoked. Not because they held the animal wrong while they led him to the path to the altar. It's not about that. Let me look at the chat for a minute and see if we're getting questions, or so I do like to answer questions when they are relevant anyway. Vienna, wow, I think you're the first one from Vienna. Oh, here they come with the free you-know-who again. Yeah. It's a little comical. The people that put Trump up, I leave them alone. I don't take it down. The people that put up Biden or Kamala or Harris and Trump, I leave them alone. I don't bother them. They're not attacking us. Utah or Judah? Well, the name is Judah. Judah with a Y sound. Yehudi means Jew. Yudah is the country. Yehudim is the Jews. That's how it goes. It's not a J or a U sound, it's a Y sound. Am I anti-race? I don't think so. I'm pro-Bible. Okay, I think we covered, there's not much going on in the chat. Let me look at my notes today. So, boy, if anybody can figure out what's going to happen with Trump not getting sentenced till after the election and he wins the election, I mean, boy, that's just historically crazy. I mean, it never happened. What's been done once will be done again. I don't think that's ever been done in America. Now, when the UN, if that's what it's going to be, which I think it would be, comes to Israel to lay siege to us, United States will be there with them also, because we have scriptures in Jeremiah 50:51 that says America will do evil right in our sight, and it says America is in there by the Jordan River, and then something scares them, and the American soldiers run away. Well, what scared them? I give you two choices: Apostle John or Elijah. Take your pick, or both. Three choices. You could say Elijah, you could say Apostle John, you could say both. But that's what's going to do it, I believe. So we could have a ceasefire, and Elijah might start working openly with the temple, without the glory of God of Israel in it yet, with the temple. I believe the glory of God of Israel will come after the wipeout in Zechariah 12. We read that in Ezekiel 43. And because I don't think God wants to use the glory of God of Israel, which is Michael, the top angel, to take out the enemy. I think he's going to do it with man, like the two witnesses, the two judges of Israel. Okay. So yeah, America is probably going to join in. They're going to be so perturbed and mad at Israel, they'll be ready. So there could be a ceasefire. The bad ones are still located where they are, Lebanon, Gaza, and so forth. And that's when God green lights Elijah to start working and raise up the Levites in the right way, and then either they have the tabernacle, which it says in Ezekiel 37, the last three verses. This is not 47, it's Ezekiel 37, the last three verses. It says that we will have the tabernacle and the temple will have both. So the tabernacle was hidden in Mount Nebo by Jeremiah in a cave and had it sealed up. And this is found in 2nd Maccabees 2, I think chapter 2. And this is the only time I use the apocryphal books. 2nd Maccabee is considered to be historically accurate. And the inside the cave is the actual tabernacle, the altar of incense, likely with incense, because possibly we can't find all the ingredients to make the incense yet. So Elijah could be when we build the altar. The altar we build ourselves. And he could be training. Somebody said, well, it'll be like sequence before. First there'll be a tabernacle and then they'll have a temple. This is very possible. And possibly the glory of God shows up with them in this tabernacle, because we see him going into the temple. He's coming from the east. Oh, I'll read you that. It's in Ezekiel 43. The east is the Mount of Olives. I don't know much, or he could just be coming from the sky in the east, going through the eastern gate. I don't think he's going to be there in the tabernacle or the temple till after the battle. Then he'll be there for sure. But so I think that it could be a tabernacle or a temple. You can get to the blessings of the Lord without a temple, without the glory of God of Israel, just with the priesthood and doing the offerings, sacrifices, and so forth, and the services of the temple in righteousness. Then the righteousness would lead to a temple. In Ezekiel 43, we don't see any war going on. I'll read you some verses in there. After he brought me to the gate, even the gate that looketh towards the east, eastern gate, and behold, the glory of the God of Israel, the God of Israel, Elohim Yisrael, came from the way of the east. There's the way, the direction of the east. And his voice was like a noise of many waters, and the earth shined with his glory. So he was talking. What was he saying? I don't know. And it was according to the appearance of the vision which I saw, even according to the vision that I saw when I came to destroy the city. That means when he prophesied against Jerusalem, because God does nothing unless he reveals it first to his prophets. So, and the visions were like the vision that I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell upon my face. So he saw what the seminary people call an epiphany. He saw the glory of God of Israel enthroned with the creatures with the wings and the hands and all of that, and the rainbow over it. That's what he saw. That he saw the same thing when he was in the Babylonian captivity. And the glory of Jehovah came into the house by the way of the gate, whose prospect is towards the east. So the glory of God of Israel came into the house. This is called the house because he's going to live in this. The word is bait, it means house, but it's also a temple. And this is the temple built without hands. I'll show you that in a minute. So that it's not New Jerusalem, believe me, I know the difference. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court, and behold, the glory of the house, the glory of Jehovah filled the house. And I heard, now that's what happened with Solomon's temple, but when he left. But with this temple, he's not going to leave, and I'll keep reading. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house, and the man stood by me. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne, so he's going to stay there enthroned. The tabernacle had no throne in it. He met with Moses and Aaron over the mercy seat, which was not a throne. Zerubbabel's temple had no throne in it for the glory of God of Israel, neither did Herod's temple. The place of my throne, the place of the soles of my feet, so he's going to sit on a throne, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel. Jerusalem is like your belly button, which they call the pupik. It's the center of your body. Jerusalem's the center of Israel, the middle. I will dwell in the midst of the children of, well, maybe that'll, no, I don't think it'll change. But it'll be the middle anyway. It'll be the middle of Israel when we get all the land back. That's for sure. And my holy name, I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. Now, what does forever mean? Does that mean that when the churches say it's over, it'll be over? Of course not. It means he's always going to stay there. But let's keep reading. And now he doesn't stay in the temple the whole time. He departs from the temple and goes into New Jerusalem when it arrives. And when you read Revelation 21, plain as day, you realize the glory of God of Israel and Yeshua HaMashiach are both sitting on thrones in New Jerusalem. And my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile. Well, that's because now they have everlasting life. He gave them a heart of flesh. He put the law in their inward parts. They don't go around saying, know the Lord. Every man shall know the Lord. See? They no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom. by the carcasses of their kings in their high places, in their setting of their thresholds by my threshold, and their posts by my post, and the wall between me and them they have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in mine anger. This is the past. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses let them, now it may not be the past, he may consume them just before these events too, it's a possibility. I don't think so though. I think this is when he first steps on the scene, he comes to the temple. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. And he killed 150,000 in one day. You can't take him out, the glory of God of Israel. You don't take him out. Satan can't take him out. He fixed Satan's wagon good. He threw Satan out. You can't take him out. Thou son of man, show the house to the house of Israel. You know, if 7 billion people came to take him out, there'd be 7 billion dead people, that's all. Thou son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their lawlessness, and let them measure the pattern. You see, we're not given the blueprints to build this temple. We're just given rough idea so we know how to go in and go out, and we can recognize various features of the temple, as you'll see here. And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, show them the form of the house, and the fashion thereof, and the goings in therein, and the goings out thereof, and the comings in thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the laws thereof. Right? All the laws thereof, and if in their sight they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and do them. This is the law of the house. This is the Torah. It says Torah. This is the Torah, the law of the bite of the house, the temple, upon the top of the mountain. So it's going to appear on the top of Mount Zion, which is not there now because some soldiers knocked it down many centuries ago, but the Lord will put it back. The whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. This is the Torah of the house. And these are the measures of the altar after the cubits. And it gives you dimensions for the cubit, for the altar. Because we will build the brazen altar. It sits outside the temple in the inner court. There's steps going up into the eastern gate. If you had your back you just left the eastern door, not the gate, the eastern door, you had your back to it leaving, you would go down the steps, make a right turn for a few yards, and you'd be where the altar is. Okay. And we'll build that. It'll be a brazen altar. And then we'll have to cleanse it for 8 days. It's in the Bible how to do it. This is the temple the glory God of Israel leaves when you have the great falling away in Gog and Magog, and he stands on the Mount of Olives to wait for it to be over. Then he comes back in and plays wipeout on the enemy. He splits the Mount of Olives open. It's not Yeshua, it's the glory of God of Israel. Okay. So now I was going to show you a couple of things. One is you being Israel. It's very easy to nail this down, to shut this down very quick. We go to Revelation 21, I don't know, maybe verse 12. Let's go verse 21:10. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. Now, what he did, I believe, is he took him to Mount Zion, which is going to be the highest mountain, and that's where the temple will be, up at the top of that. And I think New Jerusalem comes not to actually land on the earth, being 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles high. It would cover all the earth. There'd be no crops there, no, I don't see that. I think it'll be near Mount Zion, maybe land on it or touch it. I don't know. Maybe there'll be a walkway bridge. I don't know. Having the glory of God, and her light was like, so the glory of God is in holy Jerusalem, New Jerusalem, that descends from heaven. Having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone, most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear and crystal. Jehovah is still up in heaven. He doesn't come down to earth. If he did, the whole place would burn up, blow up, explode. Because he's so holy, I don't know how it would be destroyed, but it would be pretty devastating. He's so holy. And had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereof, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. So, each wall has 3 gates, total of 12, 4 walls, 12 gates. Okay? Each gate named after one of the tribes of Israel, guarded by an angel, and it's made out of a giant pearl. Now, what gate are you going to go into? Are you going to go into the Baptist gate, the Catholic gate, the Foursquare gate, the Episcopalian gate? There are no such gates. You're in Israel. I'll make the point. Ezekiel 47, I'll read it to you, the last 3 verses. Starting in 47, verse 21. So shall you divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Israel. This is right after Zechariah 12 is over. And it shall come to pass that you shall divide it by lot for an inheritance unto you and to the strangers that sojourn among you, which shall beget children among you, and they shall be unto you as born in the country among the children of Israel. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. So you, the non-Israelite born that are in Yeshua, will come on the next Exodus to Israel, and you will become a member of the tribe that you sojourned with. You, your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, etc., all members of that tribe. And you will enter New Jerusalem through the gate of that tribe. One more verse to read. And it shall come to pass that in what tribe the stranger sojourneth, there shall you give him his inheritance, saith Adonai Jehovah. So you get the inheritance of the land based on the tribe you sojourn with. All Israel shall be saved. Did I get through yet? Sure, the church doesn't teach this. You ask yourself why. I don't want to cram it down your throat. I want to read one more scripture, then I think we're getting too big in the video. And I will have covered what I was trying to cover. Ezekiel 37, the last two verses, to show you that this next temple, which is not New Jerusalem, it's not New Jerusalem, comes down from heaven. Ezekiel 37, 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace, which of shalom. Now, the lamb is a peace offering, not a sin offering, by the way. A bullock is the sin offering, and we never read in the scriptures, behold, the bullock of God in heaven. No, it's the lamb of God. But to have peace with God, you got to have the sins removed, so he took care of that too. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace, of shalom with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant. Why not? We'll have everlasting life with them. And I will place them and multiply them and will set my sanctuary. Now the word for set is 54:14. It's natan in Hebrew. It's the same word they transferred about 8 words previous as place. So they're downplaying it to confuse you. So let's not say set, let's say place. And multiply them and will place my sanctuary. Now what is that word for sanctuary? Mikdash. That's a temple. Mishkan is a tabernacle. That's a temple. They call it a sanctuary. Let's call it a temple. I will place my temple. It's pretty simple, a sanctuary, but they're confusing you on purpose. I will place my temple in the midst of them. That's Jerusalem. Forevermore. Oh, it's not going away then, is it? No. The beast and them don't destroy it? No. It says in Daniel 8:23, I think, that they consecrate the temple again when the problems are over. It gets reconsecrated, it gets cleansed. It doesn't get destroyed. My tabernacle should be with them, and my tabernacle shall be with them. So now we have the temple and we have the tabernacle. Now that's not the same word, because the tabernacle is a mishkan, and the other is what they call a sanctuary, is a mikdash. One's a temple, one's a tabernacle. What the sanctuary, the temple word is Strong's number 4720, and the tabernacle word is 4908. So they're about 200 numbers apart. It's not the same word. Also shall be with them, and I will be their God, amen, and they shall be my people, amen. And the heathen shall know that Ani, Jehovah, I, Jehovah, do sanctify. Now the word for sanctify is kadosh. Kadosh. Kadosh Kadashim is holiest of holies. Kadosh is singular, Kadashim is plural. Kadosh Kadashim. Holy of holies. So it means holy. They're calling it something else here to confuse you. Sanctified. That I, Jehovah, do holy Israel, make holy Israel. When my sanctuary, when my temple shall be in the midst of them forevermore. The heathen shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify Israel when my temple shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Why would the heathen think God made Israelis holy if a bunch of rabbis built another temple? They did that in the past. Solomon's temple, Solomon built it. Solomon's temple, Zerubbabel's temple, Herod's temple. They never got that opinion back then. Why should they now? Because this temple comes down from heaven and it looks at it. And that's why they think that. And it is not New Jerusalem. And that's why we're not given any blueprints in Ezekiel 43, even in the book of Ezekiel, to build this temple, because we don't build it. We're just given a rough idea of what it looks like, so we know how to go in and go out, and where this is and that is. And we can figure it out when it shows up. But there's no blueprints like we had blueprints to build the tabernacle. We didn't get any blueprints for this because we don't build it. But we're given an idea, rather precisely, how to build the altar, right in the same Ezekiel 43, because we do build the altar, which stays outside the temple. Okay, let me see what's going on in the chat. Scandinavia, okay. What's this? If prayers and miracles really do exist to happen, how come it never applies to amputees, birth defects? Luckily, because there's a 2,000-year period of punishment found in Hosea 6:1 and 2 that's just about ended, and then the miracles will start again like they did when Yeshua walked the earth. That's why. Okay. So I do have some prayer requests here. Hold on. I saw it. Yes, we have a tossed salad request for a tattoo festival in New Orleans. We want to toss the attendees of a that's the request, of a tattoo festival event in New Orleans. A prayer request for Mike Foxtrot, MF. Mike Foxtrot, MF. Prayer is to get the car running again and get a good mechanic at a good price. MF, prayer is to get the car running again, get a good mechanic at a good price. Okay. JG, Jack Golf. JG, Jack Golf. JG, Jack Golf. Has upcoming job interviews, pray, does well, and gets the right job according to the Lord. So for JG, Jack Gloria, maybe I should use the police call signs, Gloria, Jack Gloria. Upcoming job interview, pray, does well, gets the right job according to the Lord. So the idea is to get the right job. And this person is seeking jobs with no Sabbath work. So usually the Lord is rather merciful when that happens. Okay, there's a saying in Yiddish that they say, das ist alles. And that means this is all. So please pray for me and my wife. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our finances. They could certainly use it, I guess. Pray for healing for us. Pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for cooler weather in my area. Pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for our offerings to pick up. And that's what I got for today. It certainly was a mouthful. So I hope you got something out of it. And it's exciting. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And remember, don't let prophecy being fulfilled scare you. No harm will come near your dwelling. That's in either Proverbs or Psalms. It's in the Bible, though. No harm will come to your dwelling, or near, it says near your dwelling. Okay, you can look it up. Harm near dwelling. You'll find it. Okay. So I'm out. Thank you.